Look down for a moment. Beneath whatever you are wearing is a piece of clothing almost nobody sees, yet most people would feel strangely exposed without it. Underwear seems so ordinary that we rarely question it. But for most of human existence, there were no elastic waistbands, no boxer briefs, no bras, and certainly no neatly packaged. So why did humans begin wearing clothing under their clothing? The obvious answer might be modesty. Perhaps people became embarrassed and decided to cover themselves twice. But the real story is far more practical, complicated, and surprisingly revealing. Underwear did not appear in one place on one specific day. It developed gradually as humans tried to solve friction, sweat, cold, dirt, movement, expensive clothing, and changing social rules. Underwear was not simply invented to hide the body. It became a protective layer between the body and the world around it. The earliest forms of underwear probably looked nothing like what is inside your drawer today. One of the simplest garments was the loincloth, a strip of material wrapped or tied around the waist and passed between the legs. Versions of it appeared in different societies because the design was easy to create, required little fabric, and protected one of the body's most sensitive areas. Ancient Egyptian evidence gives us a remarkable glimpse of this early world. More than 100 triangular linen loincloths were found among the clothing placed in the tomb of Tutankhamun. Some may have been worn alone, while others likely served beneath more visible garments. In a hot climate, linen was light, washable, and more comfortable beneath heavier outer clothing. That detail matters because friction was probably one of underwear's earliest enemies. Imagine walking long distances, working in fields, riding an animal, carrying stone, rowing a boat, or marching as a soldier while rough fabric repeatedly scrapes against your body. A small inner layer could reduce irritation and absorb sweat. It could also be washed more easily than a large robe, tunic, or decorated garment. The ancient Romans used garments such as the subligaculum, which could resemble a wrapped loincloth or short trousers. Athletes, laborers, performers, and soldiers are shown wearing similar coverings. But no single Roman rule applied to everyone. What a person wore depended on status, occupation, climate, local custom, and the clothes placed over it. This is one of the most important things to understand. Underwear has never been only about biology. It has always been connected to society. As outer clothing became more layered, fitted, valuable, and difficult to clean, an inner garment became increasingly useful. Before modern washing machines, cheap detergent, and mass-produced wardrobes, clothing demanded enormous labor. Fabric had to be grown, harvested, spun, woven, cut, sewn, repaired, and preserved. A fine outer garment might represent months of work or a major share of a family's wealth. Frequent washing could damage it, while bathing was not always easy, especially where water had to be carried by hand. A simple linen layer worn against the skin could collect sweat and body oils. Instead of cleaning the entire outfit, a person could wash or replace the inner layer, underwear, then became a kind of removable barrier. In medieval Europe, men often wore loose linen garments called braies around the lower body. Their length and shape changed across time. Some were roomy, almost like baggy shorts. Others became shorter as styles of hose changed. Men could tie hose to the waist or to the braies, meaning the undergarment did more than protect the skin. It also helped support the clothing system built around it. Women and men commonly wore linen shirts, shifts, or chemises against the upper body. These garments absorbed perspiration and helped separate the skin from wool. Structured dresses, doublets, and other outer layers. They were not identical to modern undershirts, but they performed a familiar job: comfort first, protection second, and modesty when necessary. Then fashion created new problems. During the later medieval and Renaissance periods, men's outer garments became shorter while fitted hose covered the legs. The construction left an awkward opening at the front. The solution was the codpiece, originally a practical piece of cloth attached to cover the gap, but fashion rarely remains practical for long. Codpieces grew padded, decorated, exaggerated, and impossible to ignore. A garment that began as a solution became a display of masculinity, wealth, and status. That transformation tells us something strange about underwear. Although it is supposed to remain hidden, it has repeatedly influenced what the public sees. Corsets reshaped the torso. Petticoats expanded skirts. Bustles altered the silhouette. Bras lifted and separated. Shapewear smoothed the body. Even modern underwear can determine whether trousers hang properly or a dress appears seamless. Underwear lives beneath fashion, but it often controls fashion from below. For women in Europe, Separate lower undergarments developed unevenly. For centuries, many women wore a shift beneath dresses but did not routinely wear closed drawers in the modern sense. Open drawers, pantalettes, and similar garments became more visible in the 18th and 19th centuries, especially as ideas about modesty, movement, childhood, health, and respectable dress changed. At first, some people considered women's drawers unfeminine or even scandalous because they resembled men's trousers. That sounds absurd today, but clothing rules are rarely logical when they are tied to gender and morality. A garment could be praised as protective by one generation and condemned as improper by another. Industrialization changed everything. Before factories, underwear was often made at home or by local makers. The Industrial Revolution brought mechanized spinning, weaving, sewing, standardized sizing, mail-order catalogs, and eventually mass production. More people could own multiple undergarments, wash them regularly, and replace them without treating every piece of cloth like a valuable possession. New fabrics and technologies also changed the experience of wearing them. Knitted material stretched with the body. Buttons improved openings. Elastic eventually reduced the need for complicated ties. Rubber, new fibers, and modern manufacturing made close-fitting garments easier to produce in large quantities. In the 19th century, the Union suit became popular in colder regions. It combined an upper and lower undergarment into one long piece, offering warmth beneath everyday clothing. It was practical, though hardly elegant. Later, the design separated into long underwear tops and bottoms, ancestors of the thermal layers still worn today. Modern men's underwear took a recognizable shape in the early 20th century. Loose boxer-style shorts competed with tighter briefs. Elastic waistbands made both easier to wear. Advertising sold more than fabric. Comfort, athleticism, cleanliness, masculinity, and confidence. Women's undergarments were changing just as dramatically. Corsets gradually lost their dominance as clothing became less rigid and women demanded greater freedom of movement. Brassiers developed into a distinct garment, while slips, girdles, stockings, panties, and later modern shapewear followed changes in fashion and daily life. But was underwear really healthier? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. A clean, breathable inner layer can absorb moisture, reduce rubbing, protect sensitive skin, and keep outer clothing cleaner. Warm undergarments can reduce heat loss. Supportive garments can make movement more comfortable. But poorly fitted, rarely washed, overly tight, or non-breathable underwear can create discomfort rather than prevent it. Historical people did not understand microbes the way we do today. Yet they could still observe practical results. A washable layer became dirty, so the expensive garment above it did not. A soft fabric felt better than rough wool. Support made physical work easier. Extra coverage reduced accidental exposure. Experience came before scientific explanation. And modesty still mattered, just not in the simple way we imagine. Ideas about which body parts must be covered differ dramatically across cultures and centuries. In some places, a loincloth was ordinary public clothing. Elsewhere, an exposed ankle caused concern while low necklines remained fashionable. Underwear gained meaning because societies created boundaries between what was public and what was private. Once those boundaries existed, accidentally revealing an undergarment could become embarrassing, rebellious, fashionable, or seductive. The same object could represent shame in one setting and status in another. That contradiction continues today. We treat underwear as private, yet brands place enormous logos on waistbands designed to be seen. We expect it to be functional, yet choose it for color, style, identity, attraction, sport, comfort, confidence, or habit. Some designs promise invisibility. Others are designed specifically to attract attention. So why did humans start wearing underwear? Not for one reason. They wore it because bodies sweat, because skin chafes, because climates turn cold, because outer clothes can be rough, costly, and difficult to wash, because people work, ride, run, fight, dance, and bend, because fashion needs structure, because societies create rules about modesty, because technology makes new garments possible, and because humans have always used clothing to communicate who they are. The underwear in your drawer is the result of thousands of years of small solutions layered on top of one another. The ancient loincloth solved protection. Linen shifts protected valuable clothing. Braies worked with medieval hose. Codpieces covered a fashion problem and became a status symbol. Corsets and petticoats engineered the silhouette. Factories made undergarments affordable. Elastic made them convenient. Advertising made them personal. What began as a basic barrier became an invisible technology we use every day. And perhaps that is the most surprising part of the story. Civilization is not built only from monuments, wars, kings, inventions, and empires. It is also built from ordinary objects that quietly solve uncomfortable problems. Objects so successful that, eventually, we stop noticing them, until someone asks the obvious question: why are we wearing clothes underneath our clothes?